Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our series of podcasts that we call Menninger Mindscape. I'm Dr. John Oldham, Chief of Staff at Menninger, and we're delighted to have Dr. Stuart Yudofsky for a second podcast. We visited in a previous one about your early days as chairman of the Menninger Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences. And as we said in the earlier podcast, Dr. Yudofsky has announced that he will be retiring at the end of this calendar year, which is right around the corner. So we, as I said before, are very respectful of his decision, but sorry that he's going to be leaving. And as I joked about, we wonder what his rush is, because he's only been chairman for about a quarter of a century. Right. But you've been absolutely instrumental as the leader of the department. And one of the contributions I attribute to you is being instrumental in bringing the Menninger Clinic to this location. So I thought in this second discussion, let's talk a little bit about that. How did you get that idea, or how did you become aware of this possibility?
Well, John, you're generous. It took a broad effort, but I was part of it. It was clear, not just to me, but everybody in the department, in the community, or as DeBakey said, there was a hole in the heart of the Texas Medical Center. And what he meant was that for people who required specialized residential care or intensive care in a hospital that was more than the 5 or 6 days that one could get in an acute care facility, they had to leave the state. At one time, Timberlawn was a fine psychiatric hospital
in Dallas.
But this type of hospital, because of managed care and other elements, disappeared throughout the country and certainly in the Southwest. And so everybody told me, Stuart, we have to do something about that. And at that time, the private not-for-profit affiliation with Baylor and therefore the Department of Psychiatry was the Methodist Hospital. So in my plans, when we take on a new chairmanship, we give a 5- and 10-year plan. And part of the 5-year plan was to work on bringing to Houston or developing in Houston a residential care facility in psychiatry of about 100 beds. So there's a guy named John O'Quinn, who a very powerful attorney and a very wealthy man, who had his own problems, which he talked about all the time, with alcohol dependency and depression. And he said that he would help support our doing that to a tune of about $25 million. Right. So I made many proposals.
The kind of thing that happens in Texas.
That happens in Texas, and that's why we have, as we talked before, this incredible medical center, all built on the support of families in Houston who believe that great health care is important to the city. And so I put together quite a few proposals that had to take through Baylor and proposed to the O'Quinn Foundation, and we're fine-tuning it. When, about 1999 or so, I get a call from someone named Jorge De La Torre. Jorge De La Torre is a psychoanalyst who was on the voluntary faculty, a beloved teacher of the Department of Psychiatry at Baylor. And he said, I was just in Topeka, where I trained, and I was talking to Walt Menninger, and he said, we're thinking of leaving Topeka. And we're thinking of affiliating. Times have changed, and we need to affiliate with a great research medical school where they have good airport transportation and where our staff feel comfortable setting up families, and things have changed. So we're thinking of doing that. So I immediately got on the phone, because I'd been planning with Mr. O'Quinn and the Baylor board to build this hospital.
It fit right into your plans,
Oh, my heavens. But with Menninger's expertise and their extraordinary reputation, it was too good to be true. So I called Walt, whom I knew very well. I said, Walt, because I referred Menninger a lot of patients from Houston, a lot. I said, Walt, is it true I heard you're thinking about moving. And he goes, Stuart, how'd you hear about that? We just started talking about it. I said, Jorge told me. He said, I got to talk to Jorge. And so what they did was at Menninger in Topeka, they made a request for proposals, RFP, and there was significant interest of great medical centers and medical schools throughout the country. I mean, I won't name the competition, but I knew every one of them.
And there were quite a few, weren't there?
Quite a few, well over 30 or 40 who finished the process, from what I understand. And we worked very hard, and I had to help. I was chosen to spearhead the approach from the Houston base, and it meant working with Methodist Hospital and Baylor, and talking to their finance committees, and with Ralph Feigen and others who were president of Baylor at the time, and the presidents of Methodist Hospital at the time. And we were successful in putting together a great proposal, including a $17.5 million contribution from Baylor and a $17.5 million contribution from Methodist, along with the John O'Quinn $25 million. We had a strong proposal and a great marketplace, because Houston was booming at the time, and there are many patients leaving that they knew. So we won. And then it was very hard for the Menninger family, that had such a rich tradition, to make that move. And so Walt called and said it might not be the best time. And I'm telling you, John, our proposal, 2 books of this size.
I bet.
And Dan Arnold was the chairman of the board at that time, and I thought he was going to lose it. He was so upset. And we thanked them and told them if they ever changed their mind, we'd always be interested. So I went back to working on...
And that was about 2001, right?
Yes, that's exactly right. So a couple years later, they decided it was probably a good idea for them to consider moving. They got another McKinsey and Company type of consultant firm, a large one, to lead the second iteration of this, brand new, and we put together another proposal. It wasn't that hard this time because we had many of the elements, and went at it again. And some of our major rivals were places like Duke and Southwestern and Dallas. Ken Altschuler, whom we trained with, was very interested in bringing Menninger to Dallas for the same reason, for the same reasons, and with enormous support from the board at Baylor and at Methodist. Again, we prevailed, and again, there was a lot of interest from other sites. And I will say that one thing did happen that helped pave the way. One of their most famous psychiatrists, Glenn Gabbard, a famous psychoanalyst and educator and clinician, book writer, as you know, decided that he needed to move, and he wanted to come to Baylor. That was after the first failed attempt. And he came here, and Menninger was losing so much money in Topeka on the residency program, they asked if they might transfer their residents to Baylor. And we were only too glad to accommodate them, thinking that if Glenn had a good time here and felt that we delivered on what we said we'd do, and if the residents would give that same message, that the Menninger family would feel much more confident in doing that. So the community got behind it, and here we are.
No, it's just a great success story, and kind of remarkable that after a really, really strong attempt with a lot of resources, things kind of parked for a while. But then it was still possible for Menninger to regroup and to come here. Even the second time, when the actual move did occur, there was a wide range of opinion about it. I know I talked when I got here, which was in January of 2007, and I remember having lunch with Roy Menninger, who talked about how skeptical he had been about the move and his worry that it wouldn't take and that Menninger wouldn't thrive. And he told me he was wrong.
Well, that's what. Well, there are 2 major concerns, and they were shared on both sides. One concern is that we were going against the trends. Many hospitals like the Menninger Clinic around the country were going out of business. And managed care had taken over. The private not-for-profits were closing down because of all kinds of capitated care and other kinds of programs, behavioral health carve-outs in psychiatry. So we're definitely going against the trend. But we also believed in the treatment and the concept, and know that many patients need much more intensive care and can benefit from a therapeutic milieu and a multifaceted approach to their care that Menninger had been providing for 80 plus years.
Right. Well, we're going to run out of time in just a minute, but the Menninger of today really speaks to your vision and your sort of persistence and really confidence that if Menninger could come and join the department at Baylor, it would be not only wonderful for Baylor, but it would be an opportunity that would work very well for Menninger. And what we see now is the unique care that is provided at Menninger for a unique time frame of 6 to 8 weeks, which, as you say, is virtually non-existent, except for a few small places in the country.
And one of the pivotal, and we've gotten great people to come, and John, it was a transformational milestone for the department and for Menninger to be able to recruit you here as our clinical director and chief medical officer here.
Well, thank you, Stuart. That was not part of the script.
No, but it's true. It is true.
Well, it's been a pleasure and just an honor for me to be part of the department, but also to have my role as chief of staff here at Menninger. But most of all, it's just a daily, wonderful just experience to see our patients get better and to demonstrate that with the outcomes data, where we have a growing database that demonstrates how well they do by the time they leave, and a new phase of that study which shows that they continue to stay improved and hold that ground up to a year after they leave. And so that's the kind of information that I think we can publicize and may be helpful to get this kind of treatment available to the people who need it.
Absolutely. We're creating a model and we're testing that model. And John, at the end of the day, when I come here where we're sitting this beautiful campus of the Menninger Clinic and I see one patient getting care, there was a lot of work and travail that was a part of this, that I know that patient could not get that care elsewhere in Texas and probably the Southwest. It makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have to stop, but I think Menninger, for one thing, is a lasting reflection of your legacy as chair of the department and your vision. And we're indebted to you for helping this happen, but also for all of your leadership in the department over many years. You have been a stabilizing and a very, very strong leader of a bigger and bigger team that really works wonderfully with you. So you will be really missed. I hope we get somebody even close to your ability as our next chair.
Shoot higher than that, John.
No,
You're too kind.
That's a good goal.
Thank you, John.
Okay, well, thanks for joining us again, Stuart, and we wish you best, and maybe you can learn how to relax a little bit. I'm not sure.
Can psychiatry do that for a person? I've tried.
Okay, and thank you all for joining us once again.